This is the all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe, and it might just be a lot more relevant to today's UK car industry than you might expect. You see, although it's been around since 1992, the Grand Cherokee has never been a particularly common sight on UK roads. Back then, however, big luxury SUVs weren't nearly as popular as they are today. So this new 5th generation version has got a better chance than ever of dusting it with the likes of Land Rover, Range Rover, BMW, Mercedes and any other luxury SUV brand that you can think of. It certainly looks the part with full LED lighting, a gloss black roof and massive 21-inch alloy wheels. And with its chunky proportions and iconic 7-slot grille design, it's unmistakably a Jeep. And being a Jeep, it's designed to offer luxury on the road along with genuine ability off it. In the UK, it's available exclusively with a plug-in hybrid powertrain and prices start at around £69,000. But for the high-end Summit Reserve trim level that will be the best seller, you're looking at around £85,500. For that kind of money, you'll be wanting decent practicality, and on that score, the Grand Cherokee does quite nicely. The boot is appropriately massive, as you can see, and there's an enormous opening and barely any load lip, and there's even underfloor storage for both your charging cables and full-size spare wheel. Don't see many of those anymore. If you're looking for 7 seats, then you're going to be disappointed because there's only 5 on offer, and it's also a bit weird that the powered tailgate button is here rather than somewhere up there. Jeep claims class-leading legroom in the rear seats, and that's a claim we can neither confirm nor deny, but we can confirm that there is absolutely loads of the stuff, and the same is true of the headroom. The middle seat is about the same width as those either side for very decent comfort when you need to sit 3 in the back. And although there is a transmission tunnel running down the centre of the floor, it's low and it's wide, so it doesn't feel too uncomfortable to sit with your feet perched on top of it. For the money it costs, you'll also be wanting your Grand Cherokee to be appropriately luxurious, and to that end, the cabin is festooned with traditional leather and walnut wood finishes, along with some properly plush and tactile materials. There are 1 or 2 other services dotted around that aren't quite so posh, but they're few and far between, and they certainly don't ruin the feeling of quality and luxury. The luxury feel is taken even further by the sheer amount of screens that you're faced with. There's a 10.25 digital screen to act as your instrument panels right in front of you, and if that weren't enough information, there's also a head-up display of the same size projecting even more information onto the windscreen in front of you. There's a 10.1-inch central infotainment screen in the middle, and the front passenger even gets their own 10.25-inch screen on which they can enjoy some visual entertainment. The system also supports wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, Amazon Alexa and a variety of connected services. The touchscreen isn't the easiest to get to grips with, and the graphics and the screen transitions can be a little ponderous, but it'll be fine once you're used to it. Summit Reserve trim has a 19-speaker Macintosh sound system, which sounds amazing. The dashboard does have a very American feel about it, which in fairness for a Jeep is probably quite appropriate. There are, however, a lot of buttons and dials in here, especially by minimalist modern standards, and they are dotted about absolutely all over the gaff. Some of the buttons are also quite small and tricky to pick out at a glance. That said, you are likely to love the high driving position and the commanding view you get of the road ahead. And talking of the road, in terms of how it drives, there is a lot to tell you about with this car, so you might have to bear with us for just a little bit. Like we said earlier on, it is available exclusively as a plug-in hybrid, so it teams a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine with 2 electric motors, a lithium-ion battery pack and an 8-speed automatic transmission. All of that adds up to give you 380 metric horsepower and 627 newton meters of torque. As you'd expect, it runs in a variety of modes. In hybrid mode, it blends battery power and petrol power as it sees fit for best efficiency and performance. It's in this mode that it delivers its maximum performance figure of 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6.3 seconds. And to be fair, it feels good for pretty much every millisecond of that. So, despite being absolutely massive, this car will readily hurtle you forwards when you ask it to. The gearbox also does a really good job of reacting to what you're asking of the throttle pedal. So importantly, it always feels like that strong pace is always there when you need it. It is true though that the petrol engine does get quite noisy when you want to get a wriggle on. It's not loud, but the noise sounds a little bit thrashy and it's not very becoming of a luxury car. However, keep your batteries topped up and you can run the car in electric only EV mode, where it's lovely and quiet, if not quite as brisk as it was in hybrid mode. Although do bear in mind that if you bury the accelerator pedal to ask for maximum acceleration, then the petrol engine will cut in to help deliver it. Keep your throttle inputs more moderate and you can run around in EV mode all the way up to motorway speeds and for distances of up to 31 miles according to the WLTP test program. So expect more like 25 miles in the real world. There's also an e-save mode which uses the petrol engine to drive the car, saving your battery power for more efficient urban journeys later on. Or there's a regenerative braking mode for topping up your battery on the move. So that's the powertrain. What else have we got to tell you about what sits beneath us? Well, plenty as it goes. We have got air suspension with adaptive damping on all 4 corners, and that adjusts automatically depending on the road conditions. As you'd expect, we've also got a very sophisticated multi-layered 4-wheel drive system that is enormously complicated. So we'll try and give you a high-level overview of how it works. Basically, you select a driving mode on the magnificently named Select Terrain Traction Management System. Auto and Sport are the more road-biased modes, while the off-road focused ones include rock, snow and mud and sand. And according to which you select, the system electronically coordinates the behaviour of the 4-wheel drive torque split, the braking, the steering, the suspension, the throttle, the gear shift mapping, the active transfer case, the electric limited slip differential, the stability control, the ABS, and Lord only knows what else. So, what's the upshot of all this? Well, as we said earlier on, there are 2 sides to the Grand Cherokee's dynamic remit: on-road luxury and off-road unstoppability. And on the first point, it's got to be said, it does an absolutely sterling job. It smothers lumps and bumps in a really smooth, fuss-free manner. And the suspension also feels impressively controlled over bumps, so the body's not still bouncing up and down halfway up the road. That makes this a very comfortable car. You wouldn't expect a car like this to deliver particularly sharp handling, so it's utterly forgivable that it doesn't. But by the same token, there's not an undue amount of body roll in corners either, so it doesn't feel clumsy. That said, the sheer size of the car will make you think very carefully about how you're placing it on the road. What might come as a pleasant surprise is the steering. Okay, so it's not the last word in feedback or sharpness, but it does have a nice hefty weight to it. It's reasonably responsive and it's very accurate. So flinging the wheel about is definitely more of a pleasure than it is a chore. And in terms of what this car can do off the beaten track, well, when it comes to off-road driving, I am certainly no expert, but it can do stuff like this, which in my book is pretty impressive. Nah. Are you sure, mate? Really? You probably can't see right now, but this car almost turned over then. If we're being honest, previous versions of the Grand Cherokee have been a bit disappointing in comparison to more mainstream luxury SUV rivals. But in this latest one, Jeep has a car that is much more convincing, and in a variety of ways, including how sophisticated it feels to drive, the quality on display inside, and the technology on board. The plug-in hybrid drivetrain also lends it a very interesting and appealing selling point. And if you're one of those customers who wants their SUV to have some genuine off-road ability, then this thing has you covered where many luxury SUV rivals don't. It's not a cheap option by any stretch of the imagination, but it is finally a reasonably recommendable one. We'd love to know what you think of the Jeep Grand Cherokee, so please do let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and please do subscribe to the Car Gurus UK YouTube channel. And if you happen to be shopping for your next car, why not find it at cargurus.co.uk, and using our super clever pricing technology, we'll even tell you whether the dealer selling it is giving you a good deal or not.